Good work. Awesome.
Yeah.
Okay, so just to go through the agenda for today, my name is Minhaj. Uh, I'll be taking you guys through case interview prep 101. So this will be covering the basics. So first, I'll walk through the whole interview structure just to make sure that everyone at all levels understand what the case interview structure is like. Then I'll go through some key tips for case prepping, and then we'll go through uh, a case prompt together, um, a short case prompt together. That it would be good to go through a live session as a group based on some of the tips that I'll share, just to solidify it for you guys. And then lastly, some key tips from my own experience on how best to prepare and use your time efficiently and effectively. So if I first, I'll start off with introducing myself. So I actually went through the whole recruitment journey not too long ago. 2 years ago, I went through this recruitment journey, and I interned at Bain in London, and I'll be starting there full time within the next few weeks, actually. So not too long ago, I was in your shoes, so I understand how tough the whole preparation can be. I did my MBA and I just graduated in 2024 from London Business School, and I'll be working out of the London office at Bain. Originally, I'm from Canada. That's where I was born and raised, and recently moved to London and really enjoy it out here. So now, without any delay, let's talk about the case interview structure. So it depends on the firm that you're interviewing with, whether, for example, if we're talking about the MBB firms, you look at McKinsey and BCG, they would have the fit interview in the beginning of your case interview. That would be about 10 to 15 minutes. And then they would have 20 to 30 minutes set up for the case interview. Bain has a slightly different structure where they would have a fit interview that is about 40 to 45 minutes, and then case interview that would be separate uh, and its own interview for 30 to 40 minutes. You always get the last few minutes to answer any questions. And what they're really looking for in the interviews are how your structure and logic, your business intuition, your ability to solve problems, but also adapt as well. So you're not following like a particular framework that you memorized, but you're willing to adapt based on the case prompt that they give you, and also new information that they throw at you as well. They also look for your creative thinking during brainstorming, and for sure they will test you on your quant skills. So if you ever studied for GMAT for your MBA or anything, it would be something similar. And also your ability to draw insights from charts that they would, or graphs that they would give you. And then lastly, how you communicate. That's also very important. And how you uh, synthesize all the information and communicate in a structure and a confident and fluent manner. So those are the main skill sets that they're testing. Now, how to approach for the case. Now, the way I like to look at it is basically in four pillars. So the most important part is for you to understand the case prompt and write your notes carefully in a structured manner, and also ask any clarifying questions. Those that It's very important for you to know what problem you're solving before you go to solve the problem. The worst thing that could happen is you not understanding the case prompt clearly and going to solve a structure that does not even solve the right problem. So it's very important to understand the case prompt and ask the right clarifying questions before you move on to the next step, which is creating a structured approach to solving a problem. So I mentioned this before. Uh, don't limit yourself to a fixed framework. Do not try to memorize a framework. Be adaptable and flexible based on the problem that's in front of you. Uh, the second thing is that usually the best practice is to generate hypothesis-driven framework, and also, and I'm going to be sharing an example of it. Also making it MISI, so mutually exclusive, collectively exhaustive, and then once again, like I said, be creative with your structure and don't sound like you memorized the structure and are repeating it in front of them and trying to fix it and trying to solve a problem with a memorized framework. Then once you go through the structure, then you would depending on the sorry, this is one thing I forgot, that depending on the firm that you're interviewing for, some cases are interviewer led and some cases are interviewee led. And what I mean by that is, let's say if you have a structure that you present, and let's say it's a profitability structure, and you say you want to look at the financials. If it's an interviewee led, you would lead them to to the next prompt. So you would say, from the problem that we have discussed so far, I want to look at the revenue of the company by understanding its pricing strategy. That's an interviewee led. You're leading them to the next phase of the case on solving a particular problem. So then once you go past the structure and you lead them, you go to performing analysis. So they will probably give you new information. They'll probably give you some charts, some tables, and you would have to lead them into solving that problem and testing your hypothesis, whether revenue and pricing is the problem, for example. Now, when you're performing the analysis, again, it's very important to have a structured approach. So if they give you an exhibit and you're trying to solve it, it's important that you take some time, let's say 30 seconds, to structure how you will solve it, and then walk them through the problem while you're solving it, so that the interviewer is engaged. That's one. Second, if there's anything wrong with your approach, then they can try to work with you from the beginning. But if you're working on it silently, and let's say you are going the wrong direction, then it would be hard for them to help you out. So that's why it's really important to communicate with them while you're walking through the problem. And then the last pillar, that is the most common one, is delivering a recommendation. Now, that this part is also very important. When you get to this last stage, it is always important to remember the original question that you're solving for. And in the recommendation, you have to be very structured. So, for example, the recommendation is that we want to improve profitability by fixing the product mix, and these are the three ways that we recommend that you should go. Recommend step one, step two, step three, and why behind it. And then the last thing is next steps, or further lines of questions that you would want to solve for to make sure you address any potential risk. So that is the standard structure, where you walk through the problem that you were trying to solve. What is your recommendation? What are the key steps and why? And then the next steps that you recommend. I see there's someone raised their hand. So those are basically the main four pillars of approaching the case. Now, before I go to the next section, I'll answer a few questions. So I'll stop right here. Can people not hear me?
Yes, yes, your voice is clear.
Oh, okay. Okay, sorry. Someone Zanae messaged that they can't hear me, so just wanted to make sure. Um, any questions so far? Because I know someone raised their hand.
Can you go back to the slide before?
Yeah.
So here, basically, the first step that you meant and you need to derive that first of all that we need to understand the problem, and we think loudly while we are doing the interview, just giving only taking time. Let's assume 45 seconds, 40 seconds, and then we need to create the structure, right? But what do you mean here
Sorry,
by
can you say that again?
yeah? What I said that first of all, I need to understand the problem. Can you hear me?
Hello?
Can you hear me? Hello? Can you hear me? Am I audible?
Can you repeat what you just said?
Can you hear me now? Yeah. Uh, is my voice clear?
Sorry, I'm having audio difficulties. One second.
Take your time. I can't hear you.
How about now?
Yeah, now I can hear you. Can you hear me?
Perfect. Now I can hear you. Sorry about that.
Okay. So basically, let's recap what I said earlier.
Yeah, yeah.
So we should define the approach as four main pillars. First, we need to
Mm-hmm.
understand the problem, and we think about it loudly. Before we are thinking about it loudly, we should have maybe 30 seconds, 40 seconds to understand the situation and the problem about what it's talking about, and then we need to create a structure. But what do you mean here by a structure? Because structure from person to person, it's maybe different because it's a broad terminology, let's say.
Yeah, so by structure, I mean that, for example, I'm going to go back to the profitability example that I was saying. So if I were to say you that my client is worried about its profitability declining over the past year, you would uh, can you please help us with that problem? So let's say that's the question that was asked. In order to solve that problem, you would have to know where the profitability is declining from. What are the key drivers, right? So you would, instead of starting to say, hey, profitability is declining, we can solve it by doing XYZ, you would first try to understand what's the driver that's causing that. So the structure would be something like, um, based on
Yeah,
my understanding, I think that the profitability could be declining from two areas. The revenue could be down or the cost could be up,
yeah, I
right?
need to
So
identify the factors that could decline
yeah,
and
exactly.
increase the profitability.
Exactly. So then one thing with the structure is also that what differentiates the candidates is how if your structure is hypothesis driven and how deeply you are thinking about it. So anyone can say memorize that profit means revenue or cost. But if you were to then say, okay, so in revenue, I think that what I really want to explore is whether the revenues are declining because of prices, or is it because of units, or is it because the product mix that the customer is selling? You're going a little bit deeper, and if the case prompt gives you any hints, then you are generating hypotheses based off of it too. And then from the cost, you could say that what I really want to explore is within the fixed and variable cost, XYZ, based on the case prompt. And then you could go a level deeper and say, based on the hints that the case prompt would provide you, that I think that the best way forward for us right now is to start with looking at the revenue from this angle. So you're really walking your structure, and let's say you solve the revenue, then you can say, okay, now I want to look at the cost side. You go back to your structure, saying, okay, I solved one out of the three things. Now I want to go to the second thing. So the whole case is going back to your structure, and it's a structured conversation that you have with the interviewer. That's what I mean by that.
Yeah, yeah, okay. So you mean that you are going to break it down into manageable components so that we can deal with each aspect separately.
Exactly, exactly.
Great.
Yeah.
Thank you.
And one thing you mentioned is key too, which I don't think I mentioned, is when the case prompt is given to you, you ask the additional clarifying questions. That honestly, if you don't force additional clarifying questions, make sure that the clarifying questions will help you solve the problem and create your framework. And then once you have all your questions answered, then like you said, you take 30 seconds to a minute. You ask for that time to write your framework. Don't rush that. That time is very important. Take that 45 seconds to a minute to make sure that you write an organized framework and structure, and then uh, talk that structure with the interviewer and walk them through it. So it's very important to take that time to organize your thoughts.
I believe it's crucial and important that time to organize your thoughts in your mind. It's the most important factor to be successful with this case.
Exactly. Yeah. Like I said, yeah, exactly what you said. In the beginning, understanding the problem and having the right framework is probably the most important part. Even if you're the best at doing mental math and looking at charts and drawing insights, if your structure is wrong, the rest of the interview is going to be it's going to be a long time for you.
Yeah,
uh,
right.
yeah. Any
Thank
other
you
questions?
for the
Yeah, no
clarification.
problem. No problem. Awesome. And guys, feel free to message in the chat if you have any questions to stop me or raise your hand. Okay. So key tips for cases. So now the each aspect that I talked to you about, I'm going to go into a bit more detail. So the first thing is what is hypothesis based thinking when you're doing a framework. So I'm going to go back on my profitability structure. So a usually, like, what stands out from a good candidate versus not so good is someone who is basically giving you a memorized framework. Um, by mental math, I mean if you are doing multiplications and additions and subtractions, yeah, you can use pen and paper, but also you do use a little bit of mental math every time. So that's what I meant by it. There's some numbers that you can just do in your head versus writing everything down. So in terms of hypothesis-based thinking, so instead of saying that I want to look at revenue and cost, hypothesis-based thinking would be something like this. So in your case problem, you mentioned that profits have dropped by 25%. And in order to solve that problem, I want to look at opportunities to increase revenues by X%. So let's say in this case, 15%, and also opportunities to reduce cost by 20%. So now within increasing revenues by 15%, what I really want to look at is whether there's an opportunity to shift sales mix to most profitable items, whether we can increase volume by shifting our brand position, or whether we can explore pricing opportunity, or is that limited in today's competitive environment. Then within the cost side, you mentioned in the case problem that there's limited room that we can do to improve our variable costs. So then I want to look at our fixed costs. Can we drive scale? Can we increase our plant utilization to spread our high fixed costs? So those are the areas that I want to explore. So that's like hypothesis-based thinking. Within that, you could then say, for example, that I want to start by looking at the revenue side. And like you said, that pricing opportunities in the competitive market are limited. So I want to look at whether we can shift sales mix to most profitable SKUs, or whether we can increase our volume by shifting our brand position. So you're now leading him or her, the interviewer, towards a direction. And then you move on to the next step. Does that make sense with hypothesis-based thinking? No question, so I'm guessing yes. Then the other part is you also have to be confident and make logical assumptions. So here is the bad, the okay, the good way of how you can communicate. Now, based on the case problem, you could, for example, if you are, if it's that same profitability and you are solving the pricing issue, instead of asking the interviewer what average price should I assume, which is a bad way, the okay way is to say, make an assumption and be confident, saying, I will assume an average price of $1 per unit. Do you think that sounds okay? So you could say that that's an okay way of saying it, but you could also be more confident and bring outside information in, because they also want to test your business acumen. So you could say, I will assume an average price of $1 per unit based on the typical retail prices I have seen for this type of product across stores. So that is you making a confident assumption and also bringing some outside knowledge in, having some business acumen. Now, if they want to correct you, they will, but that doesn't mean that you messed up. It's okay for them to correct you because you're making an assumption. But as long as your assumption is logical and within the range and you're confident, that's the right way to communicate it. The third aspect that I want to talk about, you talked about, Ahmed, you asked about mental math. So in most cases, you will they will test your quant skills. So usually quant skills are, let's say, for example, you would have a table and you're doing some math to come up to an answer. For example, if you're solving a profitability problem and it's you trying to understand if volume went down or or is it a product mix issue? So you would look at three different product mix, and you would have a table, and you would try to see which product mix, whether it's high, low, high, medium, low, which one have been down in units and dollars sold. That would be a math problem, for example, that you would try to solve to figure out whether it's a product mix issue. So in that approach, it's very important of how you structure it. So if you're given that table, you take 30 seconds to structure your math, and then you walk them through it. If they say this is the right approach, then you start solving it with them. That's usually the way you organize your problem solving for any quant problem. For chart analysis, if you are given a chart, let's say a graph to draw insights from, again, you take 30 seconds to look at that graph, and then after that, you walk them through your insights and you communicate that effectively to them. And you look at every single detail as well. So if, for example, the chart is like there's a y-axis and the x-axis, you walk them through. So what I'm seeing is there a downward trend, for example, within this time frame. My hypothesis that it could be for XYZ reason. So I would like to explore that. So that would be like a way of communicating your insights and what you see from the chart that's thrown at you. Then the third one is a typical problem that you see is market sizing. Now, market sizing case is usually a lot frequent. And for that one, it could be market sizing cases, for example, something like um, our client is a jewelry manufacturer that's based out of US. They want to expand their market into the UK by starting with London and then across Europe. So could you help us decide what is the market opportunity for our client in London and whether it is the right place for us to explore? Right there, that's a question, like a basic level question of market sizing, where you would figure out how big the opportunity is in London for this jewelry manufacturer. So those are the three typical ways that they would test your quant. Any questions on this part? Awesome. Now, the last one that I wanted to touch on. Yeah, good question for market sizing questions. I think the best way to they're market sizing cases, by the way. So there are cases that are just market sizing cases. So you could do cases with your peers or with other people. There are a lot of case books that have market sizing cases. The one that I used in school, I in order to prep for it, I personally used a platform. There are a lot of platforms. So Case Coach is one of them, where I think I had a subscription that was included with my school, so I think you would have to pay for a subscription there. But there are market sizing problems that you could solve, and there are a bunch of them that you could solve. So that's a good platform to check out. But if you don't have subscription to it, or if that's too much, then there are a lot of case books with market sizing specific cases that you can practice. Is it important that your delivery is client friendly during the interview? What do you mean by that question? You can also speak if you want to clarify it. Sorry, what if they don't know business speak? Okay, I'll move on. If you want to ask me, I can stay for a bit after the session. If you want to ask me that question, so I think it would be good with the time that we have left to actually go through a case prompt. That way, we could put this into practice. Actually, no, sorry, I forgot to talk about recommendation. And after that, we'll do a case prompt. So with recommendation, so like I said, the it's very important on how you communicate your recommendation. Uh, so there are four key steps to it. So first, you have to synthesize your analysis to answer the original problem statement. So the best way to do it is the third example that you see. So for example, if it again, I'm going to stick to profitability so that we're consistent. So best way to solve it is we found a total 80 million profit improvement opportunity, of which 70 million comes from cost optimization. Therefore, our recommendation is that the client should close the factory C and redistribute the production to factories A and B to improve capacity utilization and reduce fixed costs. Now, that is a great way of basically giving your recommendation and being confident and having a solid recommendation, rather instead of just sitting on the fence. Once you say that statement, then you can say there are 2 to 3 steps in order for you to implement the recommendation. And also, I want to further analyze some risk factors and further come up with recommendations for those how to mitigate against those risk factors as well. So that's how you would typically structure your recommendation. You would first give your answer and be very confident in it. Then you would give your reasons, XYZ reasons, 3 reasons for it. And then say the next step is for you to explore potential risks that you would like to inquire and work with the client on. So that's the structure of your recommendation that you would use. Now, with the time that we have left, let's actually do a short case in which I would like for you guys to come up with a structure. And again, I'm keeping the theme very consistent. And to make it easier, I'll actually tell you that it's a profitability case. So let's come up with a structure for it together. And then afterwards, I'll share one exhibit that we'll try to solve together as well. And then the third step, we'll do a recommendation. So I'll give you guys time instead of me reading the case prompt. I'll give you guys a minute to read the case prompt, and then a minute to come up with your structure, and then in 2 minutes we'll go through it together. If anyone wants to volunteer, please feel free to raise your hand. Awesome. We'll start with you then. We'll start in about 2 minutes. Okay, are you ready to start?
Yes.
Sounds good. The floor is all yours.
Okay. So basically, first of all, I read the case prompt and I
Mhm.
understand the problem where it came before and what's behind that. So basically, I won't take a long time. The client is specialized on electronics goods chain store, and they were rapid opening, new stores, increased growth, and then this store tested a pilot, and they need to do a transition from some responsibilities to add new responsibilities. The old model has sales and products, but the new model, they need to initiate a program, and they have two types of employees to include in their new model that they need to initiate, establish, which is sales specialist and product specialists. So first of all, I need to conduct. That's the problem about that. They need to initiate and establish both and two models into the program. And the problem is we need to assess whether the program was successful and they meet the client expectation, they are fulfill the expectation from the customer, they are selling the products. That's the problem. So first of all, before that, I understand the problem. After that, I need maybe to do assessment by conducting a SWOT analysis. Let's see the strengths and weaknesses about the old model and the previous model. What are the strengths could enhance the opportunities for us in the new model, and what are the weaknesses and it could may threat our weaknesses for the new model, because I need to do the new model. I'm not willing to study the previous model, because all is his concern to know about the new model. Am I right?
Okay, so so first of all, thank you for being brave and volunteering.
Thank you.
Uh, so before I go with feedback, I want to ask if someone else also wants to volunteer. So we see two different examples.
Okay, sure.
Anyone? Come on, guys. We're 30.
Me another time. Just kidding.
Should I? Ian, how about you? No?
Hello, can you hear me?
Hey, yes, I can hear you.
Oh man, I didn't really come up with a structure here, but I was thinking a starting point would be to because we're considering profit and sales. So I was thinking of looking at the sales data between the two types of employees and how it was before in the previous program, but I didn't think it through it too much.
Okay. No worries, no worries. Okay, so all right, so let's take a step back and walk through this. So, how do you pronounce your name? I just want to make sure I don't say it the wrong way. Is it Abdul Kadir?
Yes, right.
Okay, perfect. So, so I think one thing that you did great. I want to start off with that is you summarized the case prompt, and that was a great way to start it off. So because it showed that you were you took the right notes, and if there was something wrong or something missing, then the interviewer would usually tell you, and you showed that you took the notes and you understood the case prompt. The one thing that you could have done is actually ask some additional clarifying questions if you had any before jumping into solving the problem. So that's one thing that you could have had when you were summarizing the case prompt. Now, in terms of the structure that you communicated doing the SWOT analysis, for example. So remember, I said that it's a profitability case from the beginning. So if you read the last sentence, the purpose of the pilot was to see whether sales specialists could target customer needs better and thus increase profits from phone sales. So our client wants to assess whether or not the program was successful and whether it should expand the pilot program to all the divisions of the stores. So there is the problem right there. The structure, the ideal structure would be that in what we really want to see is the results of this program, of this new program, and what does success look like. And in this case, the success is defined whether or not the profits have increased or not. So what you want to see if profits have increased. Now, in order for the profits if they have increased or not, there are a few things that you want to look at. So that's now you're breaking down the structure, right? You want to look at from the pilot program, from the time that it was initiated versus before it was initiated. You want to compare the revenue and the cost side of the profitability. You also then, because you don't want to just stick to profitability, you also want to go above and beyond in order to measure the success outside of profitability, because it has an indirect impact on profitability. You also want to see other factors such as morale and motivation of the team. What is the customer experience like from this new program? What is a competitor response that they might have done that could affect profitability if they come up with a response such as promotions or discounts. So those are the other metrics that you want to, non-financial metrics that you want to look at outside of your revenues and cost of your current program versus the previous program. So that's kind of your structure. But what you really want to start off is from the financial side by understanding if the revenues have increased and if the profits have increased. So then now you're leading them to a next step of the case. Does that make sense, or any questions?
Clear.
The SWOT analysis, it's an example of applying a framework that is memorized that could be applied to many cases. You know, that's it's a great way that you were bold and you took this step. Because it's a good example for you to learn and for others as well, that you want to make sure that your framework is specific to this case. And in this case, it's a profitability case. So you want to start with the financials to understand whether this program is more profitable or less profitable than the previous program.
But I believe, Minhaj, am I spelling your name right?
No, it's perfect. Yeah.
Yeah. I believe SWOT analysis as well, it will give us a benefit about that. Okay, you say that the solution for the client, it's provided in the question, but I believe if anyone need to assess whether to go or not to go with this decision, he should do the SWOT analysis, because the strengths, it's linked to the opportunities. What are you going to do, define, and what are you leading in this? And if there is threats, you will decrease the opportunities, which is threat that will neglect this opportunity to will impact negatively, let's say. So if the profits is decreasing, it's a weaknesses. So we need to assess as well, let's say, the pilot with one of the divisions, and then we'll see if this division, if we are defining the framework right, if we got the optimal goal that we defined this solution and giving us the goal that we need, then that it should be successful. If it's unmet the expectation, maybe we should redo the framework that for our project, let's say. I believe in that way. Correct me if I'm wrong.
Yeah. So my only thing is case interviews are 20 to 30 minutes long, right? So it's a very short period of time. So that's why what I'm saying is that the SWOT analysis, what you're suggesting, right now we're really just trying to solve for, like the case prompt, for example, says that we want to know if we actually increase our profit or not. That's what it's want to solve for. Um, so we would know from our analysis of profitability whether it was a strength or a weakness. Like we would know that by just solving for that problem right there in that 20 to 30 minutes that you have, right? The SWOT analysis is looking at uh, identifying strengths, weakness, opportunities, threats. It could go a lot of direction without solving for the main problem, the profitability, and just focusing on that problem. So that's what I'm trying to say. That's actually the reason why they're frameworks, so that you really zone it down to what the real issue is that you're trying to solve in the 20 minutes.
Right.
Yeah. If you but trust me, it comes with time. It comes with when you see a lot of cases, you'll realize that like you'll get really fast at identifying the problem and just sticking right to it and creating a framework to solve that one problem only.
Absolutely.
Yeah. Okay, so because we have a limited amount of time, what I want to do is actually what I want to go through is how this is a simple table exercise. I kept it simple. It's part of the same case, by the way. I kept it simple because what I really want to, I don't want to focus on if you are great at math or not. What I really want to focus on is how you structure the problem and how you communicate it and work through it. So this is the exhibit that if we're going to solve the profitability problem from the revenue side, this is the exhibit that's provided for year 2017 and 2016. And what I would like for you to do is take about 30 seconds to structure how you're going to solve it, and then someone try to solve it. It's a very simple one, so trust me, it won't be hard. Someone try to solve it and volunteer how you would communicate it. So you guys can take 30 seconds to look at it. And someone, while you guys are doing it, someone early on asked me about what do you mean by mental math? So, so in this, I think a particular sometimes what people stumble with is the zeros. So this is an example of it, dealing with a lot of zeros. So I think there are two ways to get about this in this. One, be very structured in your on the paper when you're writing things down with your notes and organize. So and then Two, practice like mentally how to solve for zeros. There are many ways that you could practice it. So I would do that. There's actually one app that's really good for it, or website. It's called Rocket Blocks, that helps you with your mental math. So I would highly recommend doing math exercises on that website. Cool. Does anyone want to take a crack at this? Again, I don't think it's too hard. So if what I really want to see is how you communicate it. No one? Damn, it's a quiet bunch.
I dropped a message on the chat, but let's give a chance for other colleagues.
Okay, you go. You go. You go.
Okay. So basically, the table shown for us on the slide, it gives us the number of stores in 2016 and 2017. In 2016, we have 120 number of stores, and in 2017, we do have 160 number of stores. So basically, we can see from this table that there is increasing, the number increased for the number of stores. 40 stores increased within 1 year. So we can calculate here as well can you go back to the slide? Yeah. We can easily calculate here the expanding of the stores, how much it's uh, giving the, not the probability, let's say the or how can I name it? It's 40 divided by 160. It will give us the percentage of how the demand of stores per year.
So
And
I'm gonna,
yeah,
sorry, in this, I'm gonna, because, so the, so again, remember the case prompt and what you're trying to solve, which is profitability, right? In this
yeah,
case, you are focusing on the number of stores increasing. Uh, but what we are trying to see is if the new program, right, of the client sales team focusing on selling the product, and the product management team focusing on the backend program, we're trying to see if this is profitable or not. So in this, the number of stores increasing, it's actually noise out there to make you confused.
yeah, I know,
But
but only I'm
yeah,
going to break it down because
yeah,
it's only the first row. Because of course I'm going to concentrate and focus on the total phone revenue or the total phones sold because it's our
okay,
concern in the case.
yeah, okay,
So
okay.
the total phone revenue in 2016 was 36 million, and in 2017 was 44 million. The total phones sold in 2016, 54,000 USD, or I don't know what's the currency, it doesn't matter. And
Mhm.
2017, it's 104,000. So as we can see the numbers, so yes, the total phones sold by this division, it's increased. So I can say the function that we are going to establish for our division is successful. So we can go forward for the other divisions, I believe.
Okay. So again, I will. This is a great step that you took. So again, thank you for volunteering. And what I so the way I would say is that anytime a table is given to you, and you're expected to do some math, right? So in this case, the way I would think about solving it.
Hey, Minhaj, can I give it a go?
Yeah, go ahead. Go ahead. Yes, we have more
Minashini
volunteers.
here. Yeah, I think looking at the numbers, what I think is quite evident is that even though the total phones sold increased year on year, but the revenue didn't grow linearly. So there's something there, like in terms of metrics that needs to be looked into. So I think I would break it down based on revenue per phone, or average revenue sold per store. I think from there it will give me more insight into like how much um, how much a store makes, and then I could compare it. I think it would give me more of a apple to apple comparison. I think from there I didn't do the math, but high
Yeah,
level, I think like the few metrics I will look at is revenue per store, phones average phone sold per store, as well as average revenue per phone. Like I think
yeah,
those are the three metrics I would look into.
yeah. So Abdul Qadir, I think you were saying the same thing, and uh, this is exactly I think what you were saying, but the way it was communicated just now was very uh, concise and to the point. Like she basically defined two metrics, which is exactly what we're looking for. So revenue per store and phones sold per store. Those are the two metrics that you would like to see. And if the interviewer then says, okay, yes, correct, then you go and solve it. So this is the alignment that you first get from the interviewer. This is what I mean by communicating, saying, I believe these are the two metrics that are the right metrics to solve for. Do you agree? Once the interviewer agrees, then you do the math and come up with an answer. And I'm sure the answer, in this case, the answer, because I'm guessing we're not going to solve it, so I'm going to give you the answer. So in this case, for example, if you do the math and divide total phone revenue by number of stores, you'll see that the revenues per store in 2016 was 300,000, and in 2017 it went down to 275,000. Even though total phone revenue increased, revenue per store went down. And total phones sold in 2016 per store were 450, and in 2017 it was 650. So then based on this answer, you could have an hypothesis that you would communicate with the interviewer. Does that make sense?
Absolutely.
Awesome. So for example, your hypothesis in this could be that the sales team, the way their compensation structure is structured, they are selling phones for a discount, or they're selling the product mix is changing from premium to low end, and you would like to explore more and then ask for more information, for example, in the case. So this is an example of the table that I wanted to go through. There's actually another table, but I am not going to go through it because of the interest of time. This would be like a second table. Like I said, in this case, now they provide a product mix and selling price, cost of goods sold, and then quantity sold. And then you would do another math to then come up with uh, whether it is the product mix that has changed or shifted. But the approach would be similar to what we discussed for the previous table. All right. We went over time, so I will stop. My goal was to actually go through this entire case and go through this table and then the final recommendation. But since we're out of time, I will stop and finish it off with my last piece of advice on how to prepare. So to summarize, the structuring and framework, which is what we went through today, is very important for you to get right in the beginning. So in order for you to do that, the key tips are to listen carefully to the case prompt and ask the clarifying question you need to solve the problem. The second advice is be flexible and do not use memorized frameworks. They will know right away if you are. and push for hypothesis-based thinking. Be confident with your assumptions that you make when you are solving problems, and also communicate with structure and confidence, your framework. The case math, so Rocket Blocks, as I mentioned, I think it's a great tool that you could use for doing math problems. And if you can, Case Coach is something that I use for market sizing and chart analysis. Those are the two platforms that I found particularly helpful. Other things you can do is, if you have friends or people who work in the industry, you could, I would definitely recommend doing case prep with other people versus on your own. I would highly recommend doing cases with other people and putting yourself in a situation where you're the interviewee in a live case session, because cases, it's not like studying for an exam. It's, you can't memorize it. You can only get better with practice and applying practical knowledge. So this is something that can't be memorized. So I think you need to do at least, for example, me, I think I did about like 10 to 15 mock cases with others. And I think I needed those. So I would highly recommend to, everyone is different, right? Some people might need 3, some people might need 5. So you will know as you go along if you're getting better and if you're ready or not, based on your confidence level. So I would recommend getting, if you haven't done so already, doing a mock case with someone. And in that mock case, really make it like a real interview. It's a 30-minute interview, and time yourself. Ask the interviewer to time you. So for example, if you took more than 1:30, maximum 90 seconds to write your structure, you need to get better at and faster at writing your structure. If you went over 30 minutes and you haven't solved the case yet, you haven't gone to your recommendation, then it's because you're taking a long time in your math, and you're analyzing your charts, and communicating, you're not being concise in brainstorming. So I would really pace and time yourself like it's a real interview when you're prepping with someone. So that's my last bit of advice for you as you prepare. If there are any questions, I have 2 more minutes. I can answer questions, and then I'll let everyone go.
Thanks a lot, Manhaj. It was a fruitful discussion, and we really appreciate your efforts for these slides. So thanks a lot.
Yeah, no problem. In terms of, thank you for your engagement, by the way. Thank you so much. And thank you for
Always.
everyone who typed in the group chat. In
I
terms of
sent you a
providing
connection
it,
on LinkedIn, by the way.
pardon?
I sent you a connection, by the way, on LinkedIn,
Okay,
so we
amazing.
can stay in touch.
Yeah, no problem. In terms of providing a comprehensive solution for this case, let me see if I can attach something, a file after this. Let me see if I can do that. If I can, I would definitely share it with you guys. That's not an issue.
Could you please recommend other sources to prep for cases other than Case Coach?
To be honest, that's I'll tell you my approach. I use Case Coach for practicing structuring and market sizing, and also chart analysis. And I use Rocket Blocks for just doing math problems. And that is basically doing self-study on my own. But a lot of my study went into doing cases with people. I would say that is the best way. But in terms of sources, the only two sources that I know are those two. I don't know about many others, so I don't want to recommend something that I haven't used, you know?
Understood, understood. Thank you for your time.
No problem. All right, guys, I will try to find out if I can share the slides and the case solution. And thank you very much. And thank you for your engagement, guys. Good luck.